The room was silent, save for the hum of the old refrigerator and the distant sound of rain tapping against the window. Outside, the wind howled, bending the trees and making the dark sky seem even more oppressive. Inside, the dim glow of a laptop screen illuminated Chris's face, casting long shadows in the corners of the small apartment. He had been scrolling aimlessly, searching for something to pass the time on a cold, lonely night. Suddenly, an alert popped up on his screen. It wasn't from an app he recognized, nor from someone he knew. It was simply a notification with no sender listed. "You have 72 hours left." His fingers hovered over the keyboard, confused. What did it mean? The message came with a countdown timer ticking down from 72 hours, and something about it felt off. He stared at the timer, watching it tick, 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 seconds slipping away like sand through an hourglass. His heart raced, a nervous chuckle escaping his lips. "It's just some weird prank, right?" he mumbled to himself. But as the seconds passed, he couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. It was like the air around him grew heavier, the shadows in the room seemed to stretch longer. Chris tried to ignore it. He opened a movie, and the low hum of the TV filled the silence. But every so often, his eyes would dart back to the screen, to the timer that never stopped. The countdown kept going, the seconds ticking away in relentless, mechanical precision. As the hours passed, Chris felt a growing unease. He couldn't understand why he felt so uneasy about a simple notification. It wasn't like it was the first weird thing to happen online. But this one felt real. And worse, it felt personal. The next morning, as Chris sat down with his coffee, the timer continued its countdown in the corner of the screen. 24 hours left. But something strange happened. An email notification appeared from the same mysterious source. "It begins soon." Chris's heart pounded in his chest as he read the message. He clicked it open, eyes scanning the chilling text. "The clock is counting down to your death. With each passing second, you will experience a premonition of the end. You'll know what happens next, but not when. The end is closer than you think." Panic seized him. What was this? A sick joke? A hacker messing with him? Chris shook his head, trying to laugh it off. But as the timer hit 18 hours, a wave of dread washed over him. Suddenly, the room grew colder. He glanced over at the window. The rain had stopped, but the darkness felt deeper, pressing against the glass like something outside was waiting. The clock continued its countdown. By the time the timer hit 12 hours, Chris had nearly convinced himself it was a hoax. He had messaged friends, even posted a quick message on social media, asking if anyone had seen something like this. But no one had. No one else was getting the countdown. But then, it happened. At 10 hours left, he saw a figure standing at the window, just outside his apartment. It was blurry, a shape too still to be real, but too ominous to ignore. He blinked hard, his breath catching in his throat. The figure remained. The timer clicked down again. Chris's screen flashed, and the same chilling email appeared. "That's what you will see when the end comes. But you won't know it's real until it's too late." His heart was racing. Now. He wasn't imagining this. Something was happening. The air was thick with tension, as if the world itself was holding its breath. As the final hours ticked away, Chris stayed glued to his screen, his hands trembling. He tried calling his friend, Jordan, but the call wouldn't connect. The entire world seemed to fade away, leaving only the ticking clock and the fear in his chest. Jordan's voice finally came through on the other end, but there was something off about it. "Chris, what's going on? I just got an alert, too. It says the same thing. A countdown. What's happening?" Chris asked, panic rising in his voice. "I don't know, but it's real, isn't it?" Jordan replied, her voice tight. "I felt it, too. The dread. The waiting. We're not crazy, Chris. This is real." The timer struck 1 hour. The air grew oppressive, and Chris was paralyzed with fear, unable to look away from the screen. The clock kept ticking, its mechanical rhythm echoing in his skull. He began to feel his pulse in his neck, the beat deafening in his ears. Then, the premonition hit. He saw it. He saw himself lying in a pool of blood, The same figure from the window standing over him. He couldn't move. His throat went dry. The clock was now at 30 minutes. His skin began to crawl as he could feel the shadows closing in on him. Chris rushed to the door. He tried to run, but he could feel something pulling him back. It was as if an invisible force was dragging him toward the living room, where the figure awaited him. 10 minutes. His phone buzzed. Another message. "You're already too late." Chris turned. He saw the figure now, standing in his living room. It was dressed in a dark coat, its face a blur, but its eyes burned through him like flames. The timer hit 0. Chris gasped, realizing too late that everything had already come true. The figure moved forward. The lights flickered. And then there was nothing.